I do something I call the sacred pause, and it's just basically taking a breath to recenter so that I can regulate myself and then be able to offer that support to whoever the children is and hold that space. So if my energy field is feeling calm and I'm coming from the heart, and then if any words need to come out, those words are coming from the heart, not the head. Because then from the head, we overthink it, we want to fix it, we want to ask for the questions. What do you need? What happened? Who did what? Should I call someone? We do. When we can just breathe and come from the heart, and it doesn't have to always be words. It can just be a gesture of how we're holding our own body a little bit, or it's the simple, subtle things I've found when I'm working with children.
Hi, Conscious Parents, it's Carrie here, and I am here with a little info about raising our mindful kids. I've got some tips and tricks about breaking free of the box and becoming who you are and teaching your kids how to do that along the way. Join us. Welcome back. It's Carrie, your friendly intuitive mama here, and I'm so excited. I get to connect with somebody. I was recently on her podcast, and now I get to have the gift of having her on ours. So we have Maria Adlam with Soulful Mamas podcast here today, and you guys have to check out her podcast if you haven't yet. Thanks, Maria, for being here.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to see you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I love connecting with you, and it's so fun to talk about our spiritual tools and where it's taken us with motherhood. And I wanted to jump right in and ask you if you've always been spiritual or if that's something that you've expanded on after becoming a mom.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think, like many people, as a child, I was very in tune and aware, but I didn't have any guidance, anyone to say, oh, that's okay, that's this or that's that. And so when I still remember asking my mum, what are these big lights or orbs in the room? And she just said, oh, you must have just been looking at the light funny and your eyes are just adjusting. And so every time there was because she didn't know herself, so she just said, never came. And so little bit by little bit, I shut it down, and the curiosity and the wonder of what is it. I remember my best friend and I, we used to just always imagine what was out beyond in space, the stars. And it was not just a little child wondering, it was almost like a remembering. Interesting. When her and I connected, we had these big conversations, but it was just two children, really. And without any adult guidance. So no, going into teenage land, it all shut down, and it would keep popping up. Late teens, early 20s, I was forever drawn to, crystals, and if there's a spiritual fair in town, and I didn't really know why. And it wasn't until I had a very dear friend pass away in a car accident, and it really rocked my world. It's probably early 20s, and he came back to me in a dream, and it was so real. It was like he was here. It didn't feel like a dream. And he said, I've come back. I'm here to tell you that it's okay. I'm okay. Because I was in my last year of university, and I was struggling because I lost my nana and then him. And what is this all about? Losing two important people in your life. And he just said, I'm okay. And from that, it was like this weight was lifted off my shoulders. I couldn't explain it. And then I went on to finish that year. I did well, and I was okay. I was actually okay. He gave me this gift of peace. I didn't really understand it, but it felt right and good. And when I got my first teaching job the following year, this mum happened to be brilliant. I didn't know anything really about that. But I don't know how. We got talking, and I told her about this dream, and I told nobody about this dream, really, because no one, And she said, do you know, that is such a gift that you're able to receive it, because that was his way of you're like at a crossroads and you can make a choice as to what path you're going to go. Like allow these losses to inform and influence your life and take this path and not finish university or whatever, or no, go on and do what you're here to do. And here you are. So that was my first knowing of, yes, there's something greater than me. And I don't understand it, but it's there and it feels right and true. And then fast forward, probably not till I had children, that it really expanded and I embraced it more so. Yeah.
What do you think it is about us becoming mothers that helps us to expand into it again? I love that you connected with it again in your 20s and then it was quiet again for you. It comes out when you need it, it sounds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a portal and you're going from the space and stage of maiden, so this into mother. And it's such a rite of passage that I do feel that it needs to be honoured and respected way more than it is, and understood even. This passage from maiden into this journey of motherhood. And it is like you're crossing a threshold, you're into this, you go through this portal, that birth portal into something, you come out and you're not the same, you're a different version of you. And there's a honouring and appreciation of that time before children as in those maiden years, and then stepping into this fullness of what motherhood looks like. And it is an opening, it's a mini awakening, if you like.
Yeah.
And I think if we're to really be honest, all of us mothers would feel there's a shift, there's definitely a change, and it's just how much you're supported and guided through that, as to whether you like push it down or soldier on or I can do it on my own. There's all of that. But I do remember with my son when he was born, his is it's a different story, but it's a big story, his coming into the world. But when he was, I don't know how old, maybe 3 or 4 months old, a bit older perhaps, he would get little chest not problems, just that was his area where he'd get, if he had a cold, it would sometimes go to his chest. And I didn't understand it, but I always had this feeling when he had something wrong with his chest, my hands would warm up and I just felt like I just needed to place my hands on his chest. And I didn't know why. And I thought, is this just me as a mama? I just feel like I need to. Because we do, when you hurt yourself, if you bang your head, you put your hands into that place, onto that place. But my hands would heat up and I would just feel like I needed to go. And I had this, it's like a remembering or a knowing that I can help him. But then I have the ego mind saying, who do you think you are? You can't, what do you know?
Yep.
And so I was very much, and again, I didn't say anything, didn't really talk about that. And it wasn't until I had my daughter, who had even bigger challenges health-wise, where I discovered Reiki. Somebody said, have you tried Reiki? Because I've tried all different things. And I said, I've got no idea what that is, but I am willing and open to find and try anything. And when I did, and when I met my teacher, I can't even describe the feeling throughout my body. It was like a homecoming. It's like, finally, it was incredible, incredible. And that's when the door really flung open. And it was like, then I really stepped into this world of where I think my soul has been trying to lead me to. Okay, she's not listening. Let's try this way. Oh, let's try this way. You just have to have these experiences along the journey. But once I went to this woman for Reiki for my daughter, I thought, but really it was for myself. And I did the training and that was and that feeling. So when I did that first training, the feeling in my hands. And then I remembered, I know this feeling. I've had this before.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was there all along, but it just wasn't refined and understood. Yeah. Reiki's probably like that gateway. Yes, motherhood, that portal, but stepping into that and then discovering Reiki, and then, but also having the people starting to gather the being in community, or just finding the mentors and the teachers and those beautiful little guides along the way that support, and it feels true and aligned, because my soul was just doing the happy dance. That feeling was so good.
Yeah, I have so many things I want to ask you that come with your story. The first thing that bubbled up in me when you were telling us at the beginning, when we say there's these challenges that can come at the beginning of being a mom, and how we start to have that mama intuition and that connection, that spiritual connection that we start to feel in us. And it's like when we just receive that spiritual connection and we're open to it, it's such a change for us as a mom versus living in it, right? The ego mind, I can do this. And it's like, I can be the perfect mom in this box of what moms need to be. So that bubbled up in me. I love that. And one thing I was thinking when you were talking about the 3 or 4 month, I had that exact same timeline where I had things shift with my kids as well. I had told you on your podcast when my daughter used to sleep on me and she would only nap on me. It was at 3 to 4 months where I was doing Reiki on myself and on herself to get her to detach from me long enough to nap in her own little bassinet. So it was around that same age. And it was also around that age for my first kiddo, my son, when I started to follow his cues instead of being the charge of my own cues and thinking like, he has to nap at this time. He has to eat at this time. This is the schedule. These are the 8 sleep devices because he can't sleep with me in the bed. That's what American culture says. He has to sleep in the bassinet. That's what's safe. And it was around that time that I went, release it, be yourself, connect. And it was those spiritual people around me that helped me to get there. So I love that power of community that you mentioned.
Yeah, because it's so empowering to have that support, because going through, so many people, so many women do have a disempowering journey, birth journey, or into their parenting journey. And it's when they feel within themselves what is right and true and what they would like to do for themselves, for their family, but society, in whatever shape or form that looks like. It could be well-intending family and friends. It could be the ads on the television saying, buy this, do this, da, 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 da. And we just get so overwhelmed with all the information and all the conflicting advice, and we forget to tune in to our own inner knowing, because we know, we do know. And what resonates with you and I might not for somebody else, and that's okay. We're not all meant to be exactly the same cookie cutter, but we have to find the thing that does speak to us, and which means stepping more into our power, finding our voice, and advocating for our children and ourselves in that way.
And I don't know if it's as popular in New Zealand where you live, because I'm in Colorado, US. I'm finding that so many spiritually connected people are starting to really talk about the kids coming in today. So I have an almost 7-year-old daughter and an almost 10-year-old son. You'll have to remind me how old your kiddos are again. Curious what your thoughts are, because you were also a teacher before, what your ideas are on these kids coming in today, what their gifts look like, what sometimes their challenges or heightened sensitivity feels, and also what your thoughts are on the idea of the star seeds. I don't know if you've talked about that at all. I was curious.
Yeah. So my children are 13 and 15.
Okay.
Well, actually nearly 13. She's in about 2 weeks' time, she's going to be 13. So she's all about, I'm really a teenager. Yeah. So when I was teaching, it definitely has. It's interesting. So when I started teaching, I was in New Zealand for a few years. Then we moved to the UK, and I taught in London for 7, 8 years in all different types of schooling.
Yeah.
in all different areas. So from the high-rise estate buildings, children never go outside, to some of the most wealthy families in the city. So there was such a contrast. But so I mainly taught year one, so between 5 and 7, that age group. And what I found was it did not matter if they had come from nothing, money-wise, or even care, or if they had everything, the cook, the maid, the driver, the tutor, everything. They had everything. The essence is they're still children. Their little hearts and souls are the same, and their needs are the same. And there's something within them that needs to be met on a deeper level. So I used to always tell this. So in the private schools, when I was working in there, and they would be all prim and proper and have their little ties on, they're really cute, but they would be, the expectation from some of the families was, they're going to do this, and I want them to be at this level, and I'm already paying for this tutoring. And so for me, it was intuitively, I felt like they still need to be children. They're still only 6 years old, and they need to still be able to access that imagination and that sense of wonderment and play, and they can learn and grow and evolve into who they are as a person through that. And so the children in the estate blocks that didn't have anything, they can find their imagination, even if it's just literally sticks and stones that they're finding. And then these other children, it's the same thing. And I remember telling a story. If you speak through story to children, you can capture them. And we're learning about maps and different treasure maps and different things. And so I created this story, and I made this old treasure map, burnt the edges, and I said it was discovered by my grandfather. And so I took them on this journey and all these different things. And it didn't matter. I told the story to whoever it was. Even the prim and proper children that like question everything, and my dad says this, their eyes would open up in wonderment, and they would be like, oh, I remember one little boy putting his hand up. I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to call me out on this, saying this is BS. It's not true. And he said, back then I was called Miss Jack. Miss Jack, I've got it. I can see there's a little, I think it was bushland or forest or something. He goes, I think there's an X in there. I think that's where the treasure was. And because he was fully engaged in this map and this story, the whole class was. And so I realized I could have taught that lesson so differently, could have done it really structured, but they were in it and they got it. And I just realized these children, they're still children. And so fast forward, when I came back to New Zealand, I went into Waldorf education, and I didn't actually know a lot about it then, but again, it was a soul-led, go through this door. You don't know why, but go. And I'm again teaching 5 and 6 year old children. And in Waldorf, that's kindergarten. We don't start formal school until they're 7, the year they turn 7. It's exactly the same. But in Waldorf education, that is recognised and nurtured. Yes, this imagination, this sense of wonderment, this ability to learn through story and social interaction and conversation, and it's the same everywhere. It's just children innately underneath. And we just have to listen and really notice. So we also need to get curious, because when we can drop into that, we can actually see the gifts that they already have. It's already there. They already know. We put so many constraints and fit into this box, and you've got to do this. And if you don't do this now, it means you can't do that later. And what's going to happen? You'll never be a successful adult, whatever on earth that looks like. We get so caught up in that, but actually if we give them permission to be, that's when their gifts, they're already there. They already come online. And now I don't teach anymore, but I work with parents, and I also run a play circle group where mums come with their or dads with their little ones. And that's when I notice more and more recently, these children coming in are just such magic. But I've just stopped talking about them. They are so beautiful, and they're just so aware and knowing. And so when I meet them, I feel like it's such a privilege and an honor to connect, and and it's not even, you don't even need words. It's just through the connecting, like looking at one another. It's like you can, eyes at the seat of the soul, you can see them. And I feel quite often they know that I can see them too. Like it's a holding space. I'm holding space for their mums, but I'm also holding space for them. And quite likely, I do believe it is them that has guided their mum to that place where they can be just supported and held in a really calm, loving environment without technology. Just be mum, that. And I think I do know that they have a part to play in directing that. And I can't say how am I. What I know, no, it's intuitive. And even star seeds, I don't know a heap about it to speak to it at depth like that, but I do know that they're coming in, and they're coming in awake, and they know. But also, like you're saying, they have, because they've got so much here, they still need to be held and supported because it's a lot, and they can be oversensitive, hypersensitive, and have different, and that could be to the food, to the environment, to noise, so it's, the more we can take a step back and just breathe and notice, get curious, then they can join us in the energy too, and permission to, okay, it's all right. I can also be as well.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many things that you're seeing it all the time as your children come with it too. But I know my daughter, she definitely needs my presence, but my presence she needs me close, but it needs to be not filled with words. It's just I'm here. And now when I work with children and my own children, I do something I call the sacred pause. And it's just basically taking a breath to recenter so that I can regulate myself and then be able to offer that support to whoever the children is and hold that space. So if my energy field is feeling calm and I'm coming from the heart, and then if any words need to come out, those words are coming from the heart, not the head. Because then from the head, we overthink it, we want to fix it, we want to ask other questions. What do you need? What happened? Who did what? Should I call someone? We do. When we can just breathe and come from the heart, and it doesn't have to always be words. It can just be a gesture of how we're holding our own body, a bit, or it's the simple, subtle things I've found when I'm working with children.
That's so beautiful. I love that sacred pause. Is it something you've taught to your own children, your two?
Yeah. Yeah. Just taking a breath. And so when I work with mums, I call it the sacred pause, because they can drop into that and appreciate that word a bit more. Now that I've got two teenagers, sacred pause isn't cool.
Cute.
But it is and it isn't. So they know what I mean and they know what I'm going to say, but I might just use the language around it might be slightly different. Or if my son is having, you can just see children when they're having a bit of an off day. You just tell by looking at their face. But I might just sit on the end of his bed and I'll just sit. Or maybe I'm just doing something near his room but not in his room. And then I will sense if there's an invitation, you can come in, and I'll just sit there. I won't really say much. I might just notice something in his room, like, oh yeah, that picture looks great, or oh, it looks like we might need to get those shoes fixed. I'll just notice something different, and then he starts to soften. If I went in there with a million questions, he would shut down and I'd get nothing out of him at all. It has to come from him, and he just has to know I'm not there to hassle him.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if when I breathe, he breathes. They're both very good, and they have been over the years at asking for Reiki as well. They know when it's going to be something that will be helpful to them. I remember Jackie, a few years ago saying to me, Mum, Mum, can I book in a Reiki with you? Just the way he said it, book it in.
Like
Maybe
a
just check
client.
my diary. Yeah, that was cute. Yeah,
Oh.
actually more him than my daughter. He's good at asking. And sometimes for her, I'll just hold her hand, and it's just that exchange is going through anyway. Yeah.
That answered. I was going to ask you if they ever ask you for Reiki or if you give them Reiki at times. My kids right now, they ask for Reiki when they're sick or when they have an owie or something because they're 7 or 6, almost 7, or one of them. So yeah, it's pretty fun for them to ask that. And I think I'm trying to remember. I think my daughter imitates giving me Reiki.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
I
So,
remember going into my Reiki room one day when my daughter was probably that age, 6 or 7,
oh,
maybe younger actually. And she had I think it was her teddy bear on the table, giving it Reiki. And then the next time I went in, it was the cutest thing. I didn't let them know I saw it. Both of my children were having turns. Like one was on the table on the bed and the other one was giving. I was like, but I just quietly walked away. I didn't want to interrupt that beautiful, like, little bubble that they were in.
oh,
Yeah, you just reminded me. So like a little snapshots in your mind, hey, because
yeah.
you don't always walk around, or especially back then with your camera taking photos. But it would have been it's just something I just have to remember
Yeah.
because it was so sweet.
A mental
Yeah,
picture. I love
yeah,
that. I think these kids, when they're given so much space to expand, so much space to be themselves, the support to be who they truly are, these ideas of these feelings of acceptance, unconditional love, patience and understanding, and the tools that you're teaching either directly or indirectly, like the sacred pause and all of those pieces, they'll have it in their hearts. And as they start to expand into the world a little bit more without mom in those teenage years, they'll still have it in their back pocket, right?
yeah, exactly. And that's what you hope for. And something else that I would use with obviously with mums too, but is this once you've had that sacred pause, then you can drop into and discern whether whatever you need to do, it's a sacred yes or a sacred no. And I do that with my children too, because particularly my daughter, because she is very sensitive and she's so aware of everybody's feelings so much. She takes on board everything. And so I'm working with her to give her permission to say no to some things. And she knows that she's kind. She's a kind
Yeah.
person. And I said, so long as that delivery, if
Mhm.
you've if it's coming from your heart, it will be the right thing and it will be received okay. And because she can recognize now when she's feeling overwhelmed and it's not her, like or feeling off, but it's not actually her, it's other energy. So I I also do teach them to look after the energy. So when they were younger, Jack was really into nights and that sort of thing. So he'd be we'd have a night cape and a shield, and that was his way of protecting his energy because it just spoke to
Oh,
him
I
at that
love
point.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as in Lifesaver, those that can it's all an intention, right? So you're making a
Mhm.
conscious choice to look after your energy field. And for Maya, she likes she has like a veil, a wraparound that she can visualize, and she still does it now. And I just remind them because they forget. Because I forget sometimes. Yes. And so adults forget when I'm teaching. So of course, children sometimes need reminding that, but ideally they've got it in their back pocket. So in the moment at school or wherever they are, they can remember that, oh, I can try this. And I have that power I can give myself permission to do this because it's going to help me. And helping me is probably going to help everybody. Yeah.
Would you, for our listeners, would you describe how you would describe a sacral yes or no to maybe like an older kiddo or even to an adult that doesn't know what it is?
Yeah. So it would start by, I always get people to start by, you can do it if you like, taking a few breaths. So I call them changing breaths. So you're just sitting comfortably, they're closing their eyes and they're breathing in through their nose, a big in breath, inhale, and then an exhale through the mouth. And it just, in the inhale, breathing in, and then a sigh like exhale, and it's just a release. The inhaling and exhaling. And that exhale, as they're doing that, they can start to drop their shoulders. They might need to just move their body in whichever way feels needed to, just to release. And once you've taken a few of those breaths, you can center into yourself. And it's if you have a question, you can ask it. It's if you have a thought that needs to have a seat at the table, something that's bothering you, give it a space to be heard, to be witnessed, and then permission to move on. From this space, you're creating this bubble, this little portal, and this is the sacred pause. You are giving yourself permission to be in the sense of energy, because it's yours.
Oh, sorry, you just cut out. We're giving yourself
Oh.
permission. Sorry, can we start there?
All right. You're giving yourself permission to take a sacred pause. And in that pause, that's when the intuition, your inner knowing, has an opportunity to be louder and stronger. And if there is a question you're sitting with, do I go to that event or not? That's when you more likely are going to hear that sacred yes or sacred no, and you'll feel it in your body. It's a yes or it's a no. And whatever it is, it's honoring that, and you're feeling this is the right thing for me to do. And so for children, I use the breaths all the time. And that journey of inhaling and exhale. And the exhale is always with the open mouth and breathing it out because you can feel it go. And there's something within your whole body, your being recalibrates in that time. It's so simple. You can do these breaths on the go if you need to. But I will say anytime before you need to have a big conversation, a meeting, you're going to a birthday party, your friend's about to come over and you're so excited, but you're also so nervous, just take a few breaths and bring yourself back into your body. And that, if we can do that throughout the day, we're keeping this balance. We're keeping our energy more in a steady flow and rather than up, down, up, down, up, down. So the breath is so powerful. It sounds so simple, too simple that people like that won't work, so I'm not going to do that. But it does work. It's often the simple things that are the most profound.
Yes.
And that's why they are. That's why they've been created. Because the ease of them so they can actually happen. Yeah.
Yeah. That was wonderful. When you were doing it, I was listening and I asked a question, and to hear I heard a yes, but it wasn't like a direct yes. I felt excitement and I felt like being home, and I could see like golden flashes of do it with my yes, no question.
Yeah, that's so good because it's not yes, Carrie, you should do this. It's often a feeling. Some and people, everyone, it's different depending on where. If you're more feeling or audio or visual, you might get these different. And it's like in a Reiki session, and you're probably the same. I never say to people, "This is what will happen," because it's everybody's own experience. And
Yeah.
gosh, so many things have happened over the people.
Yeah.
My clients over the years that I can't even imagine. Gosh, how amazing. But I'd never say, you're going to see lights, you're going to see this, your grandmother's going to come and visit you. I'm never going to say that.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But
Yeah.
that's right. And so when we, again, it's controlling it. If we think, oh, good, grandma's coming, I really need to see her. And then that doesn't happen, and there's disappointment. We just have to be in that space of surrendering and open to receive, and it will come to you in the way that is meant for you, because for some, we're all different and we can hear and experience things in different ways.
Yes. Thank you so much for explaining all of this to us. And I'll have to have you back sometime, Maria, because I feel like there's so much you and I could talk about, especially our passion for spirituality and development.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Can you tell our listeners where they can find you? Because they need to discover your podcast. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, my podcast is called Soulful Mamas, so full with two L's. And I created that to try and create a village of for mums to connect. And yes, it's online, but our villages are quite fractured. Do we even have a village these days? We get so, it feels so isolated sometimes. And even though we were more connected in some ways with digital, online, and groups, but at the same time, we're not. So it's interesting. So I wanted to create a space where mums could share their stories, primarily their journey into motherhood, what that looked like, any challenges that may have arisen and how they overcame them, but also what they're doing now, because a lot of them now, or us, it has the pathway, the trajectory is completely changed. And here we are doing something. Teachers, you're the same. I'm teacher to doing intuitive counseling and Reiki, and you're similar. And for people to, for the listeners to see that journey of potential, it doesn't have to be fixed, and it doesn't have to be. And just because for me, myself, I appear to have know what I'm doing now, I absolutely did not when I first found out I was pregnant with my son. It's a whole different story. You have to listen to that episode, because I really didn't.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and it's, you learn along the way, and there's wisdom in the opportunities for growth along the way. And that's what I love to be able to share now, because if you can, that's what it is, isn't it? Supporting other people. So the podcast is about, listening and sharing and hearing people's journeys. And there's such a common thread. And you're like, oh, that happened to you too. I thought that was just me.
Wow.
And big theme of disempowerment and empowerment, and just you can see where the need is. Yeah, so that's where that came from. And I also do my own little musings on, I follow the wheel of the year quite strongly as well. So what's happening in the seasons and the cycles and the rhythms of life. So that features quite strongly there too. And my on Instagram on parenting is so, and Facebook. I'm not the best at social media, I have to be honest, but anyway, Parenting with Soul is my business name, where people can contact me for.
Okay.
Yeah, anything. Chat.
Wonderful.
Information.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here today, Maria. It was lovely to connect
Thank you for
again.
having me. It's been beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in, Changemakers. This is Carrie. And if you haven't done a review for us, 5 stars and a little few words about what you've enjoyed in our podcast episodes, we would really appreciate it. If you guys would like to ever message me, I would love any questions you have or any feedback at info@hearttoheartlife.com. We also have a brand new website, which we're super excited to share. It's hearttoheartlife.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and Happy life, happy times, changemaker families. Please remember that the information shared on this podcast is educational in nature and does not constitute licensed mental health advice. If you need such advice, you should speak with a licensed professional about your unique situation. Thanks so much, happy listeners.